Welcome to Roby's workshop. In this episode, we're working on legs, and I tell you what, she's got them. So come on inside, let me show you what we got going on. A set of nightstands. She's got legs. Well, when I made my drawings, I made it with this particular board in mind. I've had this in the shop for an awful long time. As a matter of fact, it used to be 8 feet long. And it's a great board. I've got quarter sawn on both sides. And I said my legs are going to be 1 7/8. And I wanted 2. And when I look at this board right here, I'm at 1 15/16. Getting this to be paralleled up with only a 1/16 is a big ask. It's not happening. So I don't think I can use this board, at least for that one reason. There are others. If you look at Gustav Stickley furniture and you look at the legs, generally what you'll see is quarter sawn white oak on 4 sides. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in nature because the fleck goes this way across the board. This is plain sawn right here. This is quarter sawn. So the fleck goes this way and nothing comes up here. So we know he uses a veneer. And I've looked at his furniture. I've seen the veneer. I've looked at his plans. So we're looking at about 1/8 of an inch veneer across the front because you don't want to see the seams from the sides. And that's real important. So I've already defined that this is the front and this is the back after I cut it. Rip it this way. After gone to all that trouble and I don't get my width anyway, my thought process is I'm going to use plain sawn material. It'll take 3 blanks and I'll go ahead and I'll get the thickness that I want and I'll get the width that I want, and then I will veneer all 4 sides. Not only that, I will get a much stabler product. It's like plywood. The veneered, the glued up surfaces will actually keep the board from warping. So I'll have a better, more stable leg anyway. So let's take this piece and put him back into the back. Let's use it for something that celebrates the thickness, where you can actually see the full grain across all 3 sides. Let's take this plain sawn, let's mill up some blanks, and let's bury it in veneer. It's far easier to deal with smaller boards. Let's go ahead and cut these down to size. If I'm going to be milling lumber, I want a straight edge to put up against the fence. It's both safer and a lot easier to work with. We'll put that straight edge against the fence and rough out a width. I need a flat face, so we'll go to the jointer to get that. And now that we have a flat face, we'll have the other side parallel using the planer. Well, you've probably guessed already, I'm going to gang clamp these. It just makes sense. I can take 6 clamps and I can get the same pressure on all these boards at the same time. You might also have seen, if your set's good, I've got blue tape right here. First thing is, that means I don't glue this piece. Second, these don't stick to each other if there is some spillage. And I think there will be a little of that because this is just a messy process. Now you only have so much open time on glue, so I'm going to be applying it with a roller. And because we're going to be applying so much of it, I'm going to white glue for this. I don't think you lose 10% of the strength using just plain old white glue. And for this application, it's just fine. So we've got our roller ready. I've got my tape in place. We're going to start rolling this stuff out. And when it's dry, then we can start squaring them up and getting them ready for veneer. We are literally painting on the glue, and that's the reason for the roller. There's a lot of surface here to cover, and we don't need expensive glue for this. The regular old white glue will work just fine. You want just a thin film. Don't be stingy, but you don't want too much squeeze out either. This method of using a roller on surfaces like this works really well. When I've got a lot of clamps like this, I like to work from the center, get my pressure up good and tight, and then move toward the outside. Well, these have had a little time to sit, so I'm going to take them out of the clamps and then we go to the jointer. Well, it's time to get a little serious. Let's make sure we're square. Glue can damage your knives. Take a scraper and knock off the large pieces. The pressure points are different here. We are primarily pressing against the fence. The objective is to square up the bottom, and we can't do that if we're pressing against the bottom. We have to push against the fence. Let gravity hold the board on the beds. With two sides flat and perpendicular, we'll use the planer to plane up the other two sides to achieve a square leg. Well, this worked out great. I am at 1 3/4, exactly where I wanted to be. Everything is square and flat. Let's go get a couple of really nice boards for that veneer. I've got some really good figure in this part of the board here, and even some down here. Unfortunately, I have some sapwood that's running right through here, and it is not parallel to the edge. So I'm going to take this to the bandsaw. We're going to cut this off. Then we go to the jointer to get a straight edge. After that, we will go ahead and rip strips that are close to what I need for my first set of veneers. This is 5 feet long. I can get 4 out of these after I resaw them. Resawing on the bandsaw is one of the best things you can do in a small shop. We'll take this board and put it on either side of the leg. The illusion is that the whole leg is made out of the same board, which is exactly what we want. Resawing does leave a pretty rough edge, so you need to go to the planer to clean that up. Well, my veneers came out pretty good. I'm very happy with them. They may not be completely straight, but they are flat on one side and parallel on the other. When I clamp them to the blank, they'll get straight real fast. One of the changes from the last glue up is I'm only going to use one piece of tape. I had absolutely no problems the last time, and I think it's worth a try. It saved me a little time. Another thing I've done, I put a shim right here and taped it in a specific location. It lines up with my outside clamps, and what it does is it allows these veneers to drop just the right amount so that I have the same amount on both sides. So when I machine these off, they'll be flat, and I'll be machining on both sides the same amount. Now, most things have stayed the same. I'm still using the same white glue. I'm still using a roller, and I've got the same clamp setup. I haven't even moved these. So I'm going to get busy on this, and the next steps are going to be machining it down flat all over again. Well, these came out exactly as I expected, and what we have to do now, as you can see, it almost looks like we have a channel down the middle. We do. We need to trim this veneer back level with the center. So what I'm going to do is take a pencil, we'll mark the center, we'll go to the jointer, and we'll push this side flush up so that when we finally do start taking this material off, we'll be square. Then we're going to take our blanks right here, and we'll glue them right up on the bottom. We'll do the same thing all over again. Well, this is the final glue up on the legs, and I'm looking forward to seeing how these joints work. I had one of these strips that was a little light, and I put it toward the outside. So when we go through the process, and there's a lot of milling still left to do here to take it down to our 2 inches, all that will disappear. Oh yeah. Got a little bit right there we're going to be careful with. This is some of that chemical stain that I was showing you, and that has to do with contact with the metal and the tannins in the oak. So we'll look at that. I'm a little out over here. It'll take a little while to square these up, but I am pretty good right now. I'm about 2 1/4 on these, so I've got plenty of room to work with, and I'm 2 1/4 on all 4 sides. This is going to make for a really, really nice leg. By this time, you've probably noticed there's a prevailing theme. All kidding aside, all these steps are necessary to achieve what we want, which is a square leg. And we have one flat face, and we're making these marks in order to achieve one square corner. With one corner square, all we have to do is mill up the other 2 sides, and that squares up the full leg. Well, it's been a lot of work, but these things are square, uniform, and they're coming in right at 2 1/4 inches. I have 3/16 plus on all my veneers. By the time I take off 1/8 on each side, the veneers will both disappear and I will achieve my 2 inches square, which is what I wanted. This has been a long process, but I'm looking at this leg thinking to myself, this is really, really what I wanted here. And you can make it out of any type of timber you've got. You don't have to go and get that expensive 2-inch thick stuff. So here we are with this. We are going to mill this up to our 2 inches in the background, but our focus is going to shift on the panels and the stretchers between the legs. Well, this is the bottom panel, and it doubles as the stretcher between the right and left panels. It's 2 boards, and I don't know if you can see the pattern of the fleck, but it moves between the 2 boards like they were one. It's obvious they're 2 boards, but there's been a lot of thought put into getting this grain pattern to match, and it shows. Now, I'm going to call it on this episode. We're not moving forward with this because it requires a completely different set of skills. In this episode, the focus was the legs, and man, I tell you, they look great. We've got Quarter Sawn White Oak on 4 sides. These things are going to show from every angle. This is just exactly like Gustav Stickley did his furniture. So if you were to do a nightstand, a table, or a Morris chair, this is the technique that you would use. So if you like what you've seen, give me a like and subscribe. And I hope to see you next time in Roby's workshop.